We are so excited for today's topic. But today's topic is about marriage, and we will be talking about marriage things. So if you typically watch this podcast with your children, maybe pause it, watch it first, and make sure it's something that you are comfortable with them watching with you.
Welcome back to Life Together podcast. My wife, Abby Vargas, that is with us today. And we want to talk about the biggest marriage myths.
At least our biggest marriage myth.
Yeah.
Sometimes marriage is going to be a little bit hard.
There's time, life happens. Now you have kids, so now you're tired. Now you don't want to do the dishes. Now you don't want to take the trash out. Now you don't want to care for the other person, because then you step into kind of a selfish mindset.
I looked at you and I said, "Why are we packing my stuff?" And you said, "Well, you're moving in with me."
It was a hard thing, right? Because we're still in the mindset of about me. And once you step into marriage, it's not about you, it's about each other.
That's terrible advice. Argue sometimes. That's good. That means you still care.
You're just staring at me.
I'm like, I didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're doing that. Welcome back to Life Together podcast. My name is Joel Vargas, and I'm the connection pastor here at Together Church. And if this is your first time here, we want to say thank you. Encourage you to like and subscribe to our channel. And if you've been watching, we want to just give you a little bit of announcement. We're going to continue moving forward with the podcast, but we're going to release once a month on the second Tuesday. So remind yourself that if you're watching or want to keep up with everything we're giving out as a church on the podcast, make sure you watch out for each episode that's going to be released. But it is officially February. We finished 21 days of prayer. It was phenomenal. God did some amazing thing and will continue to do through the entire year. But we're stepping into the month of love, or Valentine's. And we thought it would be great to talk about relationship or marriage. And I mean, I wouldn't have any other guests to be able to talk about marriage and go through this and watch us have a conversation on marriage and what it's looked like. But my wife, Abby Vargas, that is with us today. And I don't know why I said last name, but I did.
It's okay. It's important.
It's the only person I've said the last name. Wanted to establish that for everyone viewing. So, but we are incredibly excited. 17 years married. And so we have a lot to say on it and our journey as we walk through 17 years and on. 2 kids, and we've learned that. So, but we've gotten some marriage advice and what would marriage look like. And they said, if you pray, everything would be fine, everything would go well. But now 17 years in, we kind of look at each other and say, who lied to us that this would be this easy? But today we want to talk about the biggest marriage myths.
At least our biggest marriage myths.
Yes, at least. We went through this, yesterday, and we were just tagging every myth that we can be like, oh, that was a good one. That's not good. But the myths that we've realized that we've had to work through and really talk about and really seek counseling and other things that would help us now at 17 years of the journey. That, we believed it for 17 years and may have messed us up a little bit, but others that actually helped us out when we actually adapted or were able to walk through that. So we're excited for it. And just to preface, this is not we've mastered marriage episode. All right. 17 years in, we haven't mastered the marriage ideas and everything else we're going to walk through our life. But this is where we're learning in real time, and you guys get to be a part of this. So you ready to go in and talk about this?
Let's talk about it.
All right. So we're going to jump into the first biggest marriage myth, and we'll give our sides and maybe our perspective and stories that we've walked through as we walk through these myths. But the first one is, if we love each other, this will be easy. If we just love each other, it's going to be easy. One way that I wanted to say is love gets you in the door, but effort keeps you there. I think when we look at the concept of love, right, the butterflies, and we feel like this feeling that we're moving on to, get engaged and get married. And we think that one day after the wedding's done, that we're ready and love is going to catapult us through the rest of our years. And then you realize I would say half a year or year 2, that's different. It's not what it seems. It's not that love is going to get. It takes work to choose to love each other. So what is your thought I want to say babe on this podcast because that's how. But Abby, what is your thought on that? I mean, from your perspective.
I will say too, this isn't like something that we've heard in the church. I feel like this is something we've heard online, on social media, where it's, I heard a podcast once that said, I hear people say that marriage is hard, but if you marry the right person, marriage shouldn't be hard. Like, no, but you're still married to a totally different person who's raised differently, who has different habits, who speaks differently, who has different thoughts than you. Sometimes marriage is going to be a little bit hard, and you can love each other so much, but still drive each other absolutely crazy.
Yes.
And I love that he's being so gentle with it, saying the first 6 months or a year. I'm like, it was probably the first 7 years for us. It really was.
Wow.
It was. We pushed through.
But we were young.
We were so young.
Yeah.
I was 18 and you were 20. Is that okay to say? Okay.
I mean, it's yeah, we were young, and I mean, jumping into this big decision, and there was a lot that was in the mix of all that made it even more difficult. But it wasn't. We weren't given the best advice, the advice that we could get at that moment in what we were trying to walk out. So, we try to hear from what marriage looked like. Comparison is one of the things, what does marriage, what we were raised in, like what did we see from our family? And you being raised is different from me being raised, right? I had both my parents. You walked a different season where you had to now step into a season of marriage and figure out if love is going to carry me through all this.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge shock because my mom was a single mom and raised, I'm one of 8 kids.
Wow. Yeah.
And so whenever I got married, I grew up and I shared a room with my mom. There's not, unless you have a lot of money, there is not a 9-bedroom house that you can just afford so that every sibling can have their own room. And so whenever we got married, sharing a room with somebody other than my mom was weird. Leaving my mom was so hard. That was really hard.
Yeah. We have a pretty cool story that she doesn't know that I was gonna say this, but so when we got married, what we do, honeymoon, came back, and it was time for her obviously to move out and us be a married couple as typically happens.
We had also a 2-night honeymoon in Daytona Beach.
Yes.
Like it wasn't a full honeymoon.
Yeah.
And it was on the drive home. And you said, all right, so we're going to go to your mom's and we're going to pack up your stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my point of view.
Yes. Yeah.
And I looked at you and I said, why are we packing my stuff? And you said, well, you're moving in with me. Why do I have to move in?
This sounds terrible. It sounds like I'm kidnapping her or something like that. And that's how I felt. I'm like, well, I thought I didn't know I had to prepare her that we made this decision and that now we would move on with our life. And I mean, I brought her home, getting her stuff ready, and she was having a tough time, and everybody's like, what's going on? And it was traumatic for me. So this is also a PTSD kind of talk of that situation.
I was literally sitting on my mom's bed, putting my clothes in a box, and I'm crying like somebody just died because leaving my mom was really hard.
Yes.
I love my mom.
Yeah, she does. And again, we were raised differently, right? And my parents were more stern but they were, basically, because I was a single child, living as a single child. I have other siblings, but independent. So, I was ready in life, but marriage does teach you that you're not ready for what you're expecting, that you should be ready in certain ways or be prepared for it. But then we're stepping into marriage, and now we're realizing that, okay, the love we had, it's something we cultivate. It's something we have to work at. Like it says, effort keeps you there in that process. The other way I wrote it here is effort isn't a sign something's wrong. It's a sign you care. So that was something that I didn't understand. I thought the caring should be easy, right? It should be natural. It should be something that like we want to do everything for each other 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then you realize there's time, life happens. Now you have kids. So now you're tired. Now you don't want to do the dishes. Now you don't want to take the trash out. Now you don't want to care for the other person, because then you step into kind of a selfish mindset, which us being young, it was a hard thing, right? Because we're still in the mindset of about me. And once you step into marriage, it's not about you, it's about each other. So now you have to put the effort into sacrificing yourself or putting yourself back so that you can serve the other person. So that's what we mean, that loving someone is not what's going to carry you the rest of the year. It's the effort you put into that marriage. It's the effort you put into a relationship. How do you love, how you speak to each other, how you care for each other, and every other thing that happens. So I don't know if you want to add anything else on that, but I think that's one of those things that everyone goes in. When I do, so I get the honor to do premarital counseling, and that's the first thing I talk about. Hey, it's great that you guys are in love, but let me shatter the bubble, or let me pop the bubble a little bit here. You're gonna need to choose to love this person the rest of your life, and that's the effort part. And they look at me and they're like, "This guy doesn't know what he's talking." Oh, you'll come back and we'll talk and be like, "You got to choose and make that decision." So here's the second myth that is here: is marriage will fix my issues. You coming in with a lot of baggage and issues and perspectives and thoughts and things that you don't deal with Christ now. You think that once I get married, it's all gone. Mm-hmm. No, I tell people this: marriage magnifies your issues, or it puts it on the platform, right? What are your thoughts on kind of that myth?
Yeah, no, that's a really big one, because I think we always, okay, let me speak for myself. Yeah. I went into it thinking, it's okay, I'm 18, I'm getting married, I'm going to grow up so fast. It's like you think when you get married, it's like a switch and you're automatically mature and selfless, and everything is just going to fall into place. And that's not the case at all. And so that one was a really hard one. I read somewhere that it said marriage is a mirror, not a cure. And whatever you struggled with before, pride, insecurity, anger, avoidance, now has a front row seat. And I wish I would have known that before. I think a lot of people step into marriage thinking, once we get married, we'll be better. We're struggling now, but that's okay. Once we get married, things will be better. Yeah. And that's not the case. Now you have somebody who's a little more raw and honest with you, and sometimes not in the most gentle way. Even we're 17 years in, and we're talking about the podcast right before this, and I'm asking Joel, did you study that part? Did you practice it so you don't forget?
Real time. It just happened before the podcast.
So it is, and honestly, that other person is stepping into it too. So they don't have all the answers. They don't have the cure. They're trying to figure it out too. And premarital is one of those things. We didn't get that. We didn't do premarital counseling. We didn't have that.
And it's such a funny thing that now I get to do it, and it wasn't something we walk through.
Yeah.
But we find the value of it because of the journey we walk through. It because we didn't walk through the premarital, and again, it doesn't mean that once you step premarital, it fixes everything. But it does allow you to see the things that you try to hide,
right? Or
what our culture now calls the red flags that you try to kind of look past and not address. Because again, we have the mindset of, well, once I put that ring on that finger, everything goes away. No, it doesn't. Now you have two people coming together, like you said, total opposites, raised differently, different culture, different mindsets of how to do life with their own issues. And now you're bringing that all, and you're like, oh, well, I thought that person was perfect. First of all, there is no perfect person. Only Jesus, all right? And we give our lives to him, so that's how there is no perfect person. And I think that's where we get into the difficulty of walking through relationships and marriages, right? I feel like this culture has turned into, well, if it don't work, I'm going the other way. There are reasons for separating. There are reasons that need to be mindful of. But I feel like it's a lot easier now because, oh, well, I saw one red flag. I don't want to deal with that. I'm out. Well, what are your red flags? What have you buried that you don't want to deal with? Maybe the situation that brought that red flag from the other person was because your red flag initiated it. It's this, but we don't want to deal with that. we think it should have fixed the issue. They should have been my knight in shining armor guy popping in. I should have been the guy, the female that he needed. I'm not. But here we are with issues and more issues, because again, life does not stop just because you brought your issues into marriage. It adds more. You get kids, it adds more. You have differences, you add more. You got careers, you add more. You see how it's a building block that just feels like it's never ending, but you should work. So I think dealing with those, having conversation about those things, even as vulnerable as you have to be, will allow you to have a fruitful marriage, because life will unravel them. So here's a third myth: is Christian marriages fight less. Yeah, definitely a myth in itself. That is, this is a funny way. I read this thinking about this yesterday. Is Christians fight too, sometimes with Bible verses. Yes. I thought that was funny. I don't know. But the thought that just because you follow Christ, now you're this peaceful walking on the bed of lilies and you're the greatest human being on the face of the earth. No, that's not true. Mm-hmm. I'll step into marriage and realize that you're going to argue about some things, even sometimes the most ridiculous things. Right, yes. The most minute, small things that when you get to sit back, like, why did we even argue about that? We've had many moments like that, right? So, what are your thoughts on that portion that we fight less if we're Christian?
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I feel like you fight a little bit more because you have this holy expectation of. Have you ever gotten into an argument with somebody who's Christian over text and then they end it with "God bless"? I feel like you do that, when you're a Christian who's married, you end it with like some passive aggressive like tone or phrase just to make them feel like you're not being a good Christian husband. Yeah. And we definitely fight. Mm-hmm. We're 17 years in. And we definitely have arguments often. Yeah. And we have a small group here at the church. And that's one of the things that we brought up during small group was fighting. Because I went to this, my brain is jumping everywhere. I went to this bridal shower once, and they had these little cards that you could put in a jar, and what's a marriage advice you would give somebody. And then they opened it up so that people could say it out loud. And so one lady who had been married many, many years said, the advice that I wrote was, it takes two people to argue. So if you don't argue, then the argument's over. And I remember looking at a friend I was sitting with and said, that's terrible advice. Argue sometimes. That's good. That means you still care. Yeah. That means that this relationship still matters so much that you're willing to fight over it, and you're not just going to let things go, because then that stuff builds up. Yeah. That tends to build up, and at some point you're going to be like, I've been dealing with this for way too long. I'm tired of it. I'm done. I'm leaving. Yeah. But when you talk about it, it's, hey, remember that time when I talked about when you say this certain thing, it hurts my feelings. Can we not do that? And you are giving them a chance to care about it too, because how is Joel supposed to care about something that hurts my feelings if he doesn't even know that it does? Yeah. I remember whenever Kayla was a baby and I was trying to nurse her, and nursing is really hard. And I was young, and she was crying, and it was driving both of us crazy. I'm sitting there crying with her, and I'm trying to nurse her, and I'm like, I don't know why she won't latch. And Joel says, she doesn't like it, so just give her the bottle. I just cried
put out
so much, and I said, why would you say that? I'm a mom. I'm supposed to be able to do this. And he never said it again after that. And it would have been so easy for me to just say, well, then get the bottle and give it to her, and just let that sit in me and become just a form of resentment that I had. But instead I didn't. I said, that really hurt my feelings. We ended up talking about it after. That really hurt my feelings, you saying that, because nursing is really important to me. And I know that it's hard, and it's going to be hard for both of us if she's having a hard time latching and she's crying and I'm crying and you're watching both of us cry. But I want that to matter to you. Yeah. And after that, it mattered to him. Yeah. If it matters to you, if you really want to nurse, what can I do to help you? But he would have never known to support me in that if I never would have thought about having the argument. Let's talk about this, you know? And because I didn't like what you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fighting is important. Arguing is important. Yeah. Now, how you argue is also important. You know, whenever you argue, if it's different if you're going into the argument to be heard and not to listen.
That is good. Yeah.
If you're willing to go into the argument and say, okay, we're both not seeing eye to eye on this. I want to hear what you have to say because I want to understand your point of view on this. Yeah. And not going in saying, you're not listening. I need you to understand why I'm thinking this way. Because then that argument is all about you. You're fighting for yourself.
And we've been there.
Yes.
We've done that.
Yes. So. You're fighting for yourself. You're not fighting for each other.
Yeah. I think I think it this way. Healthy conflict helps you grow. Unhealthy conflict divides you, right? And it's also it comes. Unhealthy conflict is a matter of the posture of the heart. Like, what's your intention? Like, now, where are you at? It's hard to really think about it, but even in arguments, are you serving your partner, or are you just trying to get from your partner?
Right.
Right. And those are the most revealing. That's why I say marriage can reveal so much of what's in your heart, because it reveals where are you. That affects everything else. I always like you mentioned, we do a group here at the church for young married couples, and I really wanted to just mix the parallels of the view of marriage and our life with Christ. It's similar in every way that you can think of it because how we posture our heart to God. Are we serving? Are we worshiping? Are we allowing him to see the deepest parts of our lives so that he can heal, so we can grow? Same way in our marriage. Are we allowing our partner to see the deepest part of our lives? Are we serving our partner? Are we loving and caring our partner so we can grow? Right? We know that God can do everything. And God's willing to do anything that is for our benefit and our blessing. But when we come to God, it's not because he's giving us something. It's because we love him, right? We're choosing to love God. Vice versa, for our partner, it's not because I want something from my partner. I'm choosing to love my partner because I want to grow with my partner. Right. There is such a similarity with that, right? And sometimes, when married people, I've heard this happen before, and they say, well, you know what, this is not working. I need to focus on my relationship with Jesus. So, well, they all go hand in hand. Right? How you deal with your relationship with Jesus is how you're going to handle your relationship in your marriage or your marriage, how that's going to look like. If you value this, you're going to value this. If Jesus is the center, that's why as pastors, we're always saying, let God be the center of your marriage. It's like, oh my God, I think you just need to say that, like meet your quota. No, that's the truth. Because if you value your relationship with God, you're going to value your relationship with your spouse. It just goes hand in hand. It's a reflection of that. Yeah. And we can go through the scriptures where even Paul writes the similarities of the church and the marriage to God, to Jesus. And it's just how it was built, because that's what God wants us to see us in real time, what it looks like for our lives with him. So
yeah. Like, are you extending the same grace to your spouse that you expect to receive?
Yeah.
Are you extending the same forgiveness to your spouse that you expect to receive?
Yeah.
And sometimes we say things like out of pocket because our emotions are really high.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily mean what we say. We may have meant it in the moment, but afterwards you're like, wow, why did I just say that?
Yeah.
But are you offering that same grace? Are you willing to forgive your spouse when they say something that hurts your feelings and not think the worst?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things too. Yeah. It's if we misunderstand each other.
Yeah.
Is your automatic response to think the worst of your spouse or think the best? So when I say, so this morning, today's my birthday. And so he texts me, he's like, hey, so you left in a rush and I didn't get to say happy birthday, but happy birthday. Yeah. And my thought was, he just forgot. He forgot
my birthday. I knew that's where her brain went. I knew.
And instead of thinking, you know what? it's early. It's 5 o'clock in the morning.
I'm not an early person, so
And I know that. And so I
Yeah.
ended up just texting him saying, it's okay. It's super early. I forgot it was my birthday too. And I did say that.
She did, but I read through that. I knew there was. She was just saying that to say that. I was like,
but it was
no
also
way.
me convincing myself, because sometimes I always think the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You think the worst of that person, or you think they really don't care. It really didn't matter to them when it did. They genuinely just forgot because you were in a rush, running around trying to find socks. That they genuinely just didn't remember when you were running around.
Yeah.
And so it's always me trying to stop and think, okay, why am I thinking the worst of him right now? What if he genuinely just got caught up in the moment and didn't mean it the way he said it? Or this is the way it came out, but that's not the way he meant for it to come out.
Yeah.
And so it is, hey, let me think the best and not let me think the absolute worst, or that they're thinking the worst, or that they're intentionally trying to be mean or harsh with their words.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just to preface, when this episode comes, her actually birthday was last week.
Yes.
So they don't bombard your social media already. You're like, happy birthday. I thought it was
will
last
not
week.
be my birthday.
Yes. But it did happen. But I think about grace in marriage like this, how we see grace in our lives individually with God is how we're going to give grace to others.
Yeah.
So if I truly believe that God's grace has covered me, has forgiven me, like I've received and walked in the true understanding of grace with God, that's going to reflect on my marriage, right? If we're struggling to give grace, are you having a struggle with your perspective, how God's giving grace to you and how you see grace? Is it the right way? We said this in our group, and years. As a guy, you have a sense of pride in being right all the time. And for me, it took a lot of years to realize that I'm not right all the time. I still struggle sometimes, but, and I had to realize that I don't have all the answers to everything. But I noticed that when I try to fight or argue or have conflict, or there's situations and we're trying to talk about things, and I just continue, because I can poke, I can keep going, I can walk prideful with my chest puffed up like I was the right one, I don't care what you said. But I realized after so many years, it's not about winning a fight. It's about growing from the fight and the argument. So one way I would do it, and when I said this in the group, all the guys were like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know, that's tough. I've learned that even if I know that I'm right, and I know that she knows I'm right, it's not about who's right, it's who's going to forgive first. Who's going to say, I'm sorry first? And that has really been one of the things that I really adapted. It took a long time, but even if whatever the argument looks like, I will go to her and I say, hey, I'm sorry for the way I said things, my tone, the words I use. What did we even argue about? What was the purpose of it? You kind of bring down the tension that is already there, right? You feel it. And I just hate the tension. I don't want that there. So I've learned to say I'm sorry first, not expecting her to say sorry. I think that's the transactional part. Well, they got to say sorry first. No. You know that the way this is going to heal or move forward is by saying I'm sorry first. And again, when I said that in the group, a lot of guys were like, yeah, don't know that. I said, well, stick in the group. We'll still work that through years coming across. But because that's the benefit of fighting in a Christian marriage. So another myth, we're going to get through this. We're good. I told you this is going to take a bit for this, but it's going to bless your marriages and relationships. The fourth one is, once we're married, here we go. We got to make it a little awkward for those that are watching. Sex will be easy and automatic. Boom, boom. It's not. The truth of this, because a lot of people think, well, we're finally we're in the covenant, we're good in God's eyes, and it's gonna be easy from here. Nope. You have kids, you have career, you have other responsibilities, and again, one of the other things that I make sure that I tell a lot of couples in premarital counseling, you have to make sure you watch your priorities. Because life will shift your priorities. You say, well, she's everything to me, and he's everything to me. Yep. Let career get a little bit more tense and more opportunities, and you have kids. Guess what? They start getting in the mix of what you are together, where those opportunities, what is supposed to flourish in your marriage, becomes less and less and less. One of the things I always tell them, this is the shocking, that I shock a lot of couples with this. Do you schedule your time to be intimate together? And they're like, what? Like, no. I said, kids will take your time and your days. Job will take your time and your days. People and relationships outside of your spouse will take your time and your day. You have to intentionally create that and work and make sure that you have that and set that aside. So if anything else comes in life, say, no, this is more valuable for me. It's not about the act of scheduling. It's about the principle of the value that you have for your spouse, that we get to do this, that we need this, because if not, we grow separate and we just divide. So what is your thought now?
Well, also, it's important to talk about it.
Yes.
And that wasn't something that we learned until later on when we did
marriage
counseling, which we'll go into the next one.
Yeah.
And they said, the counselor asked, have you guys ever talked about it?
Yeah.
No.
That was the
Why
awkward
would we
moment
talk about
of the room.
It just happens. It's spontaneous. It just happens. And he's like, no. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about your expectations. You have to talk about what you like, what you don't like. All of those things are important. You have to talk about it. Yeah. And that's not something we were ever taught, And we always were told, what was the phrase that she always used to use? She used to say, I'm not going to say who it is.
Okay. I was like, name dropping.
She used to say, sex is good, but only when you're married. And that was it.
That was the extent of
that was
what
the
we
extent
knew.
of the conversation when we were younger.
Exactly.
And so all we heard was, "Oh, okay, it's good."
Yeah.
You don't hear
we gotta get married, and it's gonna be automatic. Like
yes, it's gonna happen naturally.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do have to have a conversation about it. Sometimes you have to talk about it. And what are your expectations? What are the things that you like or you don't like? And talk about those things, because sex is a really important part of marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard it this way: desire doesn't magically sink because you said vows. Sex is a conversation. It's not a switch. We think, well, and this is where the frustration happens in married couple, right? Oh, that she needs to meet my needs. She knows. No. First of all, there are things that need to happen in between of that before you get to that point that allows you. So now you just think switch on, off. I mean, guys are different. So yes, I get that. But that for the guys, it's not a switch. All right. It's not a switch, just switch on, switch off. It doesn't work that way. There is cultivating, there is intentionality, there is conversation, there is doing things. Here goes the hard part: setting your pride down and serving, and not having the intention of just that. That is where now you're cultivating and developing your marriage and allowing space, even if you're the one scheduling the day. I am terrible at scheduling. I'm very spontaneous with everything in scheduling. But if you schedule that, she can see, man, he cares. He cares about me as his spouse. And that is a big win for you guys. So take that. And that it's just not automatic, because you do grow apart, and that does cease to exist. And then you become basically, instead of spouses, roommates, which, is one of the sad things that happen in life and in marriage.
Especially when you have kids.
Here's the last one. Good Christian couples don't need counseling.
That one's a tough one.
It is.
That's a tough one. I think anytime we've brought it up to people in church who are struggling in their marriage, the way that I've always said it was, yes, we can sit and talk to you. We can get you started, but let's set you up to do actual marriage counseling. Yeah. And it's so frowned upon. Because they think, well, if I need marriage counseling, then our relationship is falling apart. And honestly, we see it more in the men. We see it more in the men, where you and I have sat together with a couple before, and she wants to do counseling, and he's like, but we're fine. Yeah. We don't need counseling. Yeah. Because to them, it's a hit to their pride. That means something's wrong when it doesn't. It just means you want to make this work. You guys aren't seeing eye to eye. You need a middle person to help you both see each other's perspectives. Yeah. That doesn't mean that your marriage is falling apart. Yeah. You just want to keep it together before it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think prayer is powerful. Prayer is powerful. You can pray through your relationship. You should. have a culture of praying together and praying for your spouse in your marriage. But it doesn't replace conversation, doesn't replace therapy, and it doesn't replace changing some things in your life. This is the way I've heard it. God often works through hard work, not around it. It's not of, well, I pray God's going to change it all. God can, but God requires us to do the work on our side so he can show what he's already done. And that's in everything, right? That's in when we pray for family members, and that's when we want God to perform a miracle. There's some work that needs to happen in us first before we expect God to do what he's already done it. He's already got it ready, but he is challenging us and it works in our marriage. He's challenging us, do the work. Work through some things that you have buried. Work through some trauma that you have walked into this marriage with. Walk through some things that have caused or have happened in your marriage that you're not talking about. Maybe even work with that pride, or work with that kind of submissive thought, like, I don't ever want to make them upset, and have that conversation so that you can grow, so that you can see God start moving in those ways. So we encourage you, if you need it. And this is this is why I think a lot of times when the thought of counseling, marriage counseling, is brought up, is when marriages are broken, is when it is at its kind of end of the line. This is the last thing. I want to encourage you, don't wait till it's too late. Because if it's too late, not even marriage counseling can help you. Not even that moment can, and God's favor God can do anything. But if it's too late and your heart is not right and it's too deep into the pain, it's hard to get it back. So as you're walking, take some moment, maybe a season, to just jump in marriage counseling and talk about some things. Maybe you're 10 years in. Let's talk about what the 10 years look like and what you've learned or what has hurt you, so that you can make a fruitful 10 more or 10, 20 more years after that. So don't wait till it's broken. Do it today and jump into that. So those are the myths.
Those were our top 5, at least.
Top 5. There were way more. We could have done this whole podcast on the myth, but we did want to talk about some things before, after the myth, and really we wanted to talk about communication that actually works, right? I've heard from a lot of couples. You're just staring at me.
I'm like, I didn't know we were doing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're doing that. So this is good. It's gonna be all raw and just completely what she feels right in the moment. But communication that actually works. And I've heard from couples, we want to know more about communication. I think it is one of those topics that are always talked about in marriage, and it's easy to talk about, but yet we don't do it well. And I think it's a process. You learn, again, real time. We're still learning as we're going more years what communication looks in every season. But what we talked about earlier, arguing isn't bad. It's about communicating. Right? If you stop talking, well, they won't listen to me. Well, maybe there's a different way. I always tell couples, it's your tone that matters. Maybe your message is correct, but how you say it really matters. Right? It's like two separate people talking in two different languages, super loud, of the same message, but yet they still don't understand each other because they're not speaking in the same frequency. They're not speaking in a way that they can understand each other. So tone matters. What have you learned as we've gone through arguing and kind of how you approach when it comes to conflict and communicating things?
Yeah. I think that how you were raised to deal with conflict does make a really big impact. Obviously, we were both raised very, very differently. Both of your parents are still together, which is amazing. You have a lot of siblings, but you basically grew up, it was just you in the house. And I am one of 8 kids of a single mom. And we all grew up together in the same house. And my mom was very much when we argue, she made us apologize. We don't really talk about it. She says, you hurt their feelings. Say sorry. Sorry. Okay. You hurt her feelings. Say sorry. Sorry. Like through your teeth. Yeah. You don't really mean it.
Yeah.
Now hug each other. That was how I was raised to deal with conflict. Yeah. You were forced to just hug each other and then you let it go. And that definitely went into marriage. It was definitely I am so sorry, I forgive you, and hug it out. Yeah. When I didn't really mean that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be done arguing.
Yeah.
And you were the cold shoulder.
Yes.
You just you just shut down and wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. I mean, again, both parents, but yet very stern, very straightforward. There is no talking about anything. This is the rule of law.
Yeah.
In the house, and you will listen.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Love them. They're amazing, and they're amazing grandparents. But that's how I was raised. So when I got into marriage, it's like my perspective was my rules, my law. And when anything was opposite of that, anything interrupted that, it felt more like kind of, now there's an interruption to what I want part of our marriage, what we need in our marriage. And I think that's what played a part in a cold shoulder, is because I knew you were just trying to be dismissive and move on. Yeah. And I wanted you to understand the rule.
Right.
Like, this is how it's going to go. And you were like, no, I love you. It's not going to go like that, but I love you. And I'm like, no, I can see in between the hug and all that. You don't understand my rule, my law. And you're like, no, I forgive you. I'm sorry. Let's get past it. And I just didn't want to get past it because I wanted you. But that took years to realize it's not about the rule or the law. It's about the growth of the conflict. So even now, reverse, I'm coming to say sorry. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Still how I say sorry has to work, but I'm sorry for my tone. I'm sorry for what we talked about. I'm sorry that I'm the one that initiated. I'm sorry that I didn't do this or that I should have, and I should have been a part of that. And that's a total flip from like 17 years ago. Yeah. Because I wanted you to understand. And even that, it played a part in how I raised my kids. At first it was the rule of law, heavy-handed. And sometimes Abby has to come and tell me, hey, tone it down. Like, take it easy. Like, don't do that you saw. You've got to love. You've got to show what forgiveness looks like. You got to show this. And I'm like, no, the world is a cruel place. They got to learn how it is when it's rough. But then you told me that they need to see it the right way. And now that mixes how I deal with them, and I deal with my marriage, and how I deal with people. But one of the things that was the struggle, I don't know if you're going to say something.
No, I was going to say the listening without fixing.
Yeah.
Because it's also very different when you are married to a preacher and the conversation
preacher.
is, well, this is what's bothering me. And then your instinct is just to want to fix it.
Yeah, I'm counseling my wife. That's what.
Yes. And yeah. I would just take it, but I just wouldn't say anything until one day I'm like, can you in this moment not be a preacher? I don't want you to be my preacher. I don't want you to be my pastor. I want you to be my husband.
Yeah.
And I just want you to hear me out. I don't need you to fix this. This isn't something you can fix.
Yeah.
And that's also hard. How do you, like, they're talking to you about something, but there really isn't a solution to it. They just want you to sit there and listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was definitely, when she said that hit home. That was like a bag of rocks that just like, whoa, what am I? I'm not shutting this off. Like I didn't listen. I was just giving solutions, and it reflects. You know what? That knowing that moment, it grew. It helped me grow, because that's how I led people. I wasn't listening. I was just giving solutions and Bible verses and this and that and this and that. And then when we went through, our journey with Joshua and his heart complication, I saw the other side as well, that, everybody sends you the Bible. Remember the first 3 months, all I would send you was like pictures of.
Yes, I still have screenshots.
Bible verses, because that's just what I knew. But I didn't know how to just be real and know that life is life. So not everything requires a Bible verse. It just requires honesty or listening. And so now I've learned to adapt that in my journey in leading people. Is like, they don't need to just hear a verse. They need just someone to listen. Mm-hmm. And in marriage, they don't need to hear your solutions, men. They just need you to know that you're listening, that you're there, that you're attentive. And even if you don't, I tell a lot of people as well, don't go into conflict thinking you're going to have a solution. Many conflicts don't have solutions, or they're not quick solutions. It takes time.
Right.
So if you're thinking, well, no, I'm going to argue till there is a solution to this thing, you're going to argue and argue and argue, and you're still not going to understand each other. And you're still not going to have a solution, and there's still going to be a problem and tension. Don't go in thinking there's solutions. Conflict, deal with it, apologize, move on, and then eventually the solution will come out, and you will see that. One of the things that we like to talk to couples or even in our group is the difference between covenantal and transactional marriage. You know, the reflection of Jesus. And I think we touched a little bit earlier on the podcast, but this is so important because we get into marriage thinking or relationship thinking, well, if this person doesn't give me X, Y, and Z, then I'm out, right? They need to. This is transactional. And the thing about transactional, it's like a contract. Once you sign, if they don't fulfill the agreement, we can break the contract and move on to the next agreement. But that's not how God designed marriage. He designed it as a covenantal marriage, which is a covenant where it's not what I get from the other person, it's what they do or how they grow and we grow together. It's the same way with a covenant with God, right? It's not what God can do for me, but being with God helps me grow. And how do I lay down things at his feet? So what are your thoughts about covenant and transactional marriage?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a difference between being selfish and selfless. It's a difference between wanting to serve and wanting to be served, which we talked about even in arguing. Are you wanting to listen to what your spouse has to say, or are you just wanting to be heard?
Yeah.
That's also one of those like factors is when it's a covenant, you guys are doing this together.
Yeah.
It's for each other. When you argue, it's for each other. It's not for yourself.
That's good.
You're not fighting against each other. But transactional is what about me?
Yeah.
It's all about me. There is an I in marriage, you know, and thinking about yourself. But when it's a covenant, you think of it differently. It's we want to keep this pact. You know, what we agreed on, what we said I do to. We want to keep this. Yeah. And how can we do that? How can we understand each other to make this last?
And it gives value to your marriage. You know, it gives it more importance. Like it really establishes the principle of why I'm married, and this is why we're growing, and this is what's going to happen. And I think one of the last things we kind of want to dive in, and which happens, is raising your kids. Raising your kids without losing your marriage is a big one. Do not use your kids for an excuse for anything. They are a blessing. But at the end of the day, I tell married couples this: when they're grown, they're married, they have their own family, they're building their own culture and vision of that home, and they move out, the only other person that's there is your spouse. What you have built through the years is dependent, or what you're going to see at the end is dependent on what you built through the years. And if you allow yourself to be lost and say, well, I got to take care of this, I got to take care, and there's a lot that comes with it, right? You got sports, you want them to flourish, you want them to do this, you got to take them to the appointments, you got to do that, extra this, and then drive here and get here and babysitter here and all that stuff, which is part of life. But if you allow that to be like the main focus and the excuse, then when all that is done, when the light of raising a kid is gone, what is left? Nothing. And now you're fighting for something that never was built or cultivated. What are your thoughts on?
No, I think that's actually a perfect way to end it, and it summarizes, you know, I feel like everything that we talked about is put effort in each other. Put your spouse first, not your kids first. That's hard.
Yes.
Is putting your spouse before your kids. Yeah. But it's important. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's the person you're laying next to in bed. That is the person you're building your family with. That's your partner when it comes to raising your children. Yeah. Are you caring for your spouse as well as you're caring for your children? Yeah. And the way you said it was great. When your kids move out and they have their own families and they have their own kids, the only person that's left in that house is you. Yeah. And what's left there if your whole marriage revolved around children and your own children? Yeah.
And you want to build a legacy, you start with your spouse, which will go over and deposit into your children, which will build out, and you will see that. And if they can see a healthy marriage, then that's what they'll mimic the rest of their life. So I hope this blessed you as we kind of travel through these myths and talked about marriage, and as we're in the month of love, and kind of helped encourage you. I think the biggest thing for us is that encourage you for your marriage to put in the effort, to put in the work, leave it at Jesus' feet. Go get counseling if you need to, but there is a community that wants to support marriage and allow you know that you can be fruitful and grow. So we're excited, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
babe,
having me.
and talking about marriage, and even throwing some stories out there about me, and now everybody can put it out for me. So, but man, it was a blessing to talk about marriage, and I think we need to talk about those deep intricacies of marriage. So, thank you for being on the podcast. We'll see you next one.
So if you feel good about it, I feel good about it.
Okay.